because there are so many people in my generation who don't necessarily know what their gift is in life, and they're just kind of just going to a job because everybody in their household has told them to go to a job. Like, most people have it in them, but I think that they're just kind of scared because it's like, if I pursue this, then, you know, my mom or my grandma or my aunt or my cousin or somebody is going to feel some type of way, because I'm actually doing something that they may not understand. So you can't, if you're really passionate about something, I mean, you really can't go in there expecting, like, I want money right now. You know, like, if it was up to me, I'd be making $100,000 a year, traveling all over the place and being 22 years old. Like, yes, but the reality is that my life is not set up like that. So, you know, you have to just be grateful for the things that you do have.
Hey, what's going on?
All right, what's going on?
What's going on, Tyson?
Good, good, man.
Awesome.
Everything is good.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to connect. I know we connected over an Instagram post a while
Hmm.
ago and
Yeah.
just really appreciate, getting to know you and a little bit about your message and just wanted to connect. I love connecting with people on a similar
Yeah.
path and just learning
Hmm.
more about them.
Yeah. For me, my path is kind of a really long journey, I guess you'd say. So with videos, as far as that, I was doing comedy videos since, I believe it was 2015, but I kind of stopped because, like, I was still in high school and, you know, like, being judged from other kids and, like, feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do this or not. And so I just basically stopped. And then throughout, when I first started college, I was like, okay, well, like, what is it that I want to do? Because I was also in my major and things like that. So when I found communications as a major, I was like, okay, perfect. I already like to talk a lot as it is. So, you know, I'll fit that into whatever it is that I want to do. So I went from that to, or communications, I went from, like, journalism. Then I went to, like, TV hosting. And then I went to now, like, I always had motivation since I was a kid. um, it was a thing that I naturally had, like, as a 5-year-old or whatever. And then I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna start living and actually doing this. And at first, I've been doing it for about like since, like, January, really, is when I started on Instagram. But I've had my YouTube for about, like, 2 years now, like a year and a half, 2 years. But I wasn't actually doing anything with it because I was, like, really afraid to get started. And then I just decided last year, um, before the new year, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just post the first one and see how it goes. And it went pretty well. So I just kept doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And your Instagram bio says that you help millennials find their gifts and own their purpose in life. And I love that. That's
Yeah.
huge. And so, we connected over an Eric Thomas post, a very
Yeah.
motivational person, very
Hmm.
inspiring person, very
Right.
energetic. And I've
Hmm.
seen, some of your videos and what sparked you wanting to do that? Like you wanting to help specifically millennials, but like with this motivation drive and this willingness to share your truth with the world.
Well, I think for me, um, helping millennials just in general was more so me seeing some of my friends who didn't really know what they were doing. So I felt like a lot of them was just kind of going to school, and then it would just be like school, work, going home, and they didn't really have, like, anything else that they're working on. So the reason how I came up with that whole phrase is because I wanted to understand who is it that I'm actually around and who is it that I'm actually talking to every day. Who are the people that I'm following on social media? And that's where the millennial part came in, because there are so many people in my generation who don't necessarily know what their gift is in life, and they're just kind of just going to a job because everybody in their household has told them to go to a job, or they're afraid to post a video because they feel like they're going to be judged for it. I know that there's some people. I know there's some people that I had to kind of push the wheel for them to kind of get started. I've been able to help some people make YouTube channels. I've been able to help some people start their businesses, all because it's like most people have it in them, but I think that they're just kind of scared because it's like, if I pursue this, then, my mom or my grandma or my aunt or my cousin or somebody is going to feel some type of way, because I'm actually doing something that they may not understand. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I find that's what I've noticed with communicating with people for over the years is just a lot of people are suppressed with their dream or their vision to take a path that's more conventional, quote unquote, conventional
right,
or accepted in society, the safe route, which isn't really safe anymore. But that
right,
builds a big gap with the internal reflection that we have. And then,
right,
our ego starts to come out and speak for us more often, and we start reacting
right,
in different ways. So
right.
I love that, and I love that that's become part of your purpose. And on that note, what was that moment that you went through that kind of woke you up to this realization for yourself and seeing what people are doing and having empathy for them, but not judging them in a negative manner, but wanting to inspire that perspective that you've chosen? And so like, what was that moment? And then kind of how does that work with you being? Are you still in college?
Yeah.
So how did that work with you with kind of taking a quote unquote conventional route with going through the education system, but at the same time taking your own take on that?
Yeah. Well, I think as far as for other people, helping them, I could start with one thing at a time, but helping someone specifically, I personally felt like for me, it can't just always be about like what I want to do. So I really believe in the power of helping other people. And I think that as time goes on, you have to be a person who, you can't just be a speaker. You have to be a person who is a influencer to other individuals. So with me in college, I really like now actually throughout this whole quarantine time, I've actually thought to myself, I'm like, is this something that I actually want to do? Is this something that I really want to do? Um, as far as like doing work after college, because right now I'm in a place of, okay, I want to get into social media, doing like assisting for a company or something like that around those terms, because I've been studying it and I've been able to see the results on my own page. And I understand little things here and there. But I realized that in college, there's more than just being here. Like there's more than just like being in college for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. You have to have something afterwards. You can't just be in the race of like, and I still hate it because I actually haven't applied to any internships at all during this time, mainly because I want to be able to actually be in a building and not just do like some virtual stuff. I prefer to actually be around people who can teach me and talk to me. But I really thought to myself, I'm like, it's too stressful and it shouldn't be that stressful. Um, and when it comes to inspiring other people and it comes to inspiring associates, strangers, friends, family, it's really just about everybody can really live the life that they want. Now, I don't know, a lot of things financially. I'm not really responsible for a lot of things right now, but I do know that what I'm doing now is going to open doors for me down the road. And if I'm doing it for free, I know that eventually I'll be doing it to be getting paid for it. But it's just going to take time. And I think that when it comes to inspiring other people or helping them with their own gift, it's really just helping them to understand what their gift is. And most people don't know what it is because your gift is literally the thing that you're the best at and you do no work for it. And most people don't they hear that, but then they don't know what it is. And a lot of times, most of us are doing our gift. Most of us know what our gift is. It's just we just don't recognize it. Like it's just not there.
Yeah,
Or
for
no one's
sure.
told us.
And I feel like on that note, we're also, as a society, conditioned to believe that the things that we're passionate about and good at don't equate to dollars. And then that
Right.
leads into something you touched upon earlier with what I find from experience with talking to people. I haven't gone to college. I'm a high school dropout turned pro
Okay.
athlete now turned business
Oh,
owner.
yeah.
So for me, I saw this path that was laid out in front of me and I didn't like it. And I've talked to other people that have
Mm,
gone that route, but you said something earlier, you pointed to it indirectly, but like intention. So a lot of people just follow the steps that people, either their parents, their peers, society, government, whatever is laid out, and they have no intention behind it. Because you mentioned, people
right.
go 4 or 5 years, whatever, into school and not have an intention of what's after that. And you're already
Yeah.
thinking what's after that, and it's not
Right.
maybe aligned with the traditional route. And so
Right.
I think that's really impactful. And I think what you're doing and inspiring that perspective with other people to be more intentional, but to be more conscious of their being, so that way they can see their gifts and they can step into their power. That is their gift. I think
Yeah.
that's everything. And I think if more people thought that way, we would have
Right.
maybe a little bit more of a happier, healthier, and successful society.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, we would. Seriously. I think that if people understood that, especially in my generation, my mom is, always saying like there's no excuse because there's social media. And back, in my time, I didn't have social media. So she was like, there's so many ways to make money now that there really is no excuse. And I think that that's true, that there is so many ways to make, um, money today, and not even money, but there's a way to make happiness, excuse me, and to create happiness, and to really just live in what you're here to do. Because most people that are working in a job right now, 9 times out of 10, they hate it. Like they don't want to be there. So, or if they do want to be there, they don't like certain people there. And for me, one of the things that I don't mind doing an internship. I don't, if that's what it has to take, then I will do that. But I won't be there long. It'll be maybe a couple months, maybe a year or so. I'd save up whatever money I need. But I know that for me, it's not that I can't work for someone. That's, we can do that. But at some point, I'm working for somebody else's goal and someone else's vision. And I personally haven't understood how to get into I call it hustlers. I don't call it entrepreneur because there's just too many people saying that. But getting that to that point of myself is definitely where I want to go. But right now, I'm really focused on uh, building credibility with myself and building credibility with others and continuing to show up every day.
Yeah, I mean that's what you got to do. Like people talk about like how do I have more motivation? How can I be motivated? Like motivation
There is
is
no such
nothing
thing as
but energy.
motivation. Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
comes and goes just as our thoughts, but
Yeah.
consistency and discipline create the motivation people seek. So
Right.
it's I think people need to shift or reframe that. It's like how can I be more driven, more
Right.
consistent with my actions to create
Right.
that motivation, that momentum.
Right.
And what comes to mind with what you just said was have you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I'm reading it right now.
So two things, I don't want to spoil them, but two main things I think he addresses in the beginning that stood out to me was a frame of mind. So when someone says, I can't afford that, they shut their brain
Mm.
down. They say, I can't anything, they shut their brain down. But rather than that, thinking, what would it take to afford, or what would it take to
Right.
be able to do that, or to learn that,
Right.
or how can I? It's an open minded way of thinking. And he addresses that as to that's the entrepreneurial mindset. It's not, I can't, it's how do I solve this problem?
Right.
And that seems to be what you and myself are experiencing today. It's, we're learning all we can, we're communicating our truth, we're communicating with others, but we're trying to figure out our own way, create our own
Right.
path.
Right.
The other thing that he said that stands out based on what you just said is we all know we can go work for someone. We know we can, help someone fulfill their dream, fill their goals. But as soon as we start collecting a paycheck for that, that shuts our mind down from how do we make our own money. And so you mentioned you're willing to work for free right now to gain
Right.
experience, to gain credibility. And I think that that's something that took me a while to understand, especially with being a professional athlete. It's like, no, I need to make money to be able to pay my
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work for this brand or that brand to represent them. But then as I've gone, it's like, oh, if you show people the value, they'll
Right.
see at a certain standpoint. Like there's a certain line you have to understand. That's where self awareness comes in education. But there's a certain point where you give enough value, people see value in you, and it'll just come to you. And so I love
Exactly.
that you mentioned that you're willing to do that now because it's going to pay off and you're going
Exactly.
to be gaining experience along the
Yeah.
way.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think that you can't, if you're really passionate about something, I mean, you really can't go in there expecting like, I want money right now. You know, like if it was up to me, I'd be making $100,000 a year, traveling all over the place and being 22 years old. Like yes, but the reality is that my life is not set up like that. So, you know, you have to just be grateful for the things that you do have. But yes, when it comes to momentum, well, first, when it comes to motivation for your viewers or whoever's listening, you know, I would just say motivation is not a thing. And if you're waiting to be motivated, no one's going to call you and say, well, somebody might call you, but 9 out of 10, no one's really going to call you and say, hey, you need to go ahead and do this, or you need to go ahead and do that. You know, for me, being in college, I don't, you know, I go to a PWI, and there's a lot of, and I'm not big in racial issues, but you know what's going on right now. There's a lot of my colleagues and my friends who have issues towards certain, you know, people or whatever. I don't care. You know, for me, I'm there to get an education. I'm there to push forward. I don't care if you're purple. I don't care if you're green. I don't care if you're yellow or orange. I need help. And at the end of the day, momentum is what pushes you. And I think that momentum and knowing how hard and how bad you really want it. You know, for me, I wanted to get a bachelor's degree. So I have my associate's degree already, but I wanted to get my bachelor's degree. That is an accomplishment of mine for my life. And not a lot of people care about that, or not a lot of people really want that. And that's perfectly fine. But if you know what you want, then I would highly suggest you get to doing what it is that you want to do, and you get there and you push yourself until you have succeeded, until you have what it is that you want, and be willing to ask for help, and be willing to do what's going on now, connect with other people, and get people's knowledge and understand. And I can definitely say for me, one of the things that I've had to learn, and I'm actually implementing for tomorrow, because tomorrow's July, is collaborating more and not doing things on your own, because you cannot do everything by yourself. You need help, and you need people's insights. So
Yeah, no, that's an amazing thing to talk about, because so many people either are dependent and they don't know they are on other people, things, you know, whatever it is. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum. And this is where I laid for a while, was being super independent, like stubborn, like put off to having people help or having things help. But then there's this third element that not a lot of people talk about, interdependence. So being dependent on yourself and knowing you can work with others. So it's like a form of independency, but knowing you can collaborate with others, and that's going to drive you forward more. And that, I think that's something that, I don't know, there's a lot of stigmas on a lot of different things, but there's a lot of stigmas over, you know, oh, you're asking for help, like that means you're weak, or oh, like, you know, you're being too stubborn. And it's like, well, there's a middle ground. It's called interdependence. And that's what I see we're doing right now. Like I love learning about people that I vibe with, and I can see the similarities, but learning their journey, what they've gone through, what makes them tick. And you mentioned, you know, purpose and motivation isn't a thing. It's not something that you just, you know, can have someone wake up or call you one day and wake you up to do. It's I like looking at motivation comes from inspiration. So when you figure out what you want and you figure out the why, that's your purpose. And if people are like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is in life and this and that, like, if you haven't figured out your purpose, that's fine. I would suggest you try more things, and you start with your purpose being becoming the best version of yourself, because that's going to impact whoever you come in contact with. But then
right,
thereafter, your purpose leads to a change in perspective that inspires you.
yeah,
Motivation should be looked at as inspiration, because that's what quote unquote motivates you every day, is if you're clear on what you want to do and why. And so you made that very clear. You know, you wanted to get a bachelor's, and then you have this intention for after you graduate what you're going to do. And
right,
that's what I see as fueling your motivation. And something I asked earlier that I actually forgot we went away from, but what was the moment, if there was a moment, you know, you mentioned you've always been motivated as a kid and everything, but like what was the moment that just changed everything for you, that was like, I want to start sharing my truth, whether it's YouTube, it's Instagram, it's changing my degree, whatever it is. What was that moment that was like that motivation was inspired from to want to share?
for me personally, I'm not a huge religious person, and I don't push it on no one. But for me, I believe in God, and I feel like for that reason, since I was a kid, and it goes back to being 5. I was literally in the back, not here because this is my mom's new house, but at the house that I grew up in, I was preaching to literally trees, grass, everything. There was a guy at my dad's church who he's still the pastor of that church today. And he would just preach. And I would watch him preach, and I'd come home and I would do it in the same evening. I would literally put on the thing. I would mimic everything that he did. I would, from the facial expressions to everything. So now that I'm older, I didn't want to be a pastor. I just wanted to, his spirit and the way that he was so powerful to me that I was like, hey, I can do that too, but it may not be in the church form. So that's kind of where it started for me. But I think besides looking at somebody else, that was like little kid influence to now. But as far as what clicked for me, I think is when I started uploading on Instagram. And that's how I knew that it worked. Throughout quarantine, I have like 3 or 4 videos that have hit over 6K. So for me, it's not about numbers, but it is about the fact that what you put out, people will listen to you. And one thing I will also say too, for anybody who's thinking about like doing creation or creating something, and I've had to stop this because it's just bad. Stop watching everyone else. Like, stop taking everyone else's notes. Stop watching so many YouTube videos. Like, I can't tell you, I crashed a couple of days ago. And yesterday, today's Tuesday, Sunday, I had to call a friend and recuperate my life practically because I was like, this is too much. I can't do this because I was watching so much and I wasn't creating. And, everyone has like the ability to create anything. Like, even if you don't want to do like social media stuff, anybody has the ability to cook things or create things or, get your body together. Like, you have the ability to do it. You just have to start with your gift. And so for me, through the process of me starting my gift, I actually had changed my YouTube channel from a name that had to do with me to owning purpose. And I noticed that no one has the name called that on YouTube. And if it is, it's like a bunch of like pastors having sermons or like motivational videos or something like that. But no one has a channel called that. And I wanted to make that my channel because I personally believe that a lot of people don't know what their purpose is, or they know what it is and they don't know how to own it. And owning your purpose literally is just being yourself. Literally just going on a camera and talking. Like, I used to, like, my voice now, me speaking, this was like 10th grade, I would not be on here because I literally like, people used to make fun of my voice. And it used to be like, oh, it was too raspy. Or, kids used to be like, hey, how are you doing? Like, they used to like treat me like I was an old man. And as I got older, I really realized that, number one, it's okay to be yourself. And number two, people are going to accept you regardless of what you look like, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you are. Like, people are going to listen to you, especially if you have a good message and you have something to bring to the table. Because value is what people look for. They look for solutions, they look for help, and they look to find, their gift in life and their purpose in life. And I can't give you the step-by-step because a lot of what your gift is you actually doing the work and you actually discovering who you are. So a lot of people I can't really help because I'm like, I kind of already know what I'm supposed to do. But if you tell me things that you're interested in, I'm more than likely able to help you. So that's kind of where I somewhat started in my journey.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And on that note, yeah, like the more you compare yourself, the more you doubt yourself, the more
Yeah.
your insecurities take over, and you're not just focused on the purpose, like what you want to do and why. You find yourself getting into the information overload. You try
Oh, yeah.
looking at all these people, and we've all been there. We have people we look up to, we gain inspiration from, we gain knowledge from, we aspire to be like. And then if there's this fine line that can be crossed, that if you do, you get into information overload, analysis paralysis, but it's because you're too focused on what other people are going to think rather than what you want to share. And
Right.
something that was profound piece of advice that was given to me a while ago. I don't know. Are you familiar with Dave Asprey?
No, I
The
don't.
bulletproof diet, bulletproof radio guy. He's a big like was a computer hacker, engineer, all this and that, and then got into biohacking, and he's like really famous. He's the one that came up with bulletproof coffee, all that stuff. But I was at an event of his one time, and someone asked a question about having to give a speech the next day at work, and I was actually there being interviewed by Dave for his podcast on the stage live, and I was coming up next, and I was thinking, I was like, yeah, like I'm a little nervous, you know, I'm speaking in front of a live crowd at this guy's book signing tour for his major podcast, has all these thoughts, and this guy asked a perfect question, and Dave responded. He said, "It's because you're making it about yourself.
Yeah.
You're worried about yourself and what people are going to think of you. You're not worried about the message, the value you're giving to those people." And as
Right.
soon as he said that, I felt so much more at ease. And that's what's helped me. That was what, 4 years ago. And that's helped me transition more with literally being on stage in front of thousands of people doing my own talk or filming videos like this. You know, it's not about you. You mentioned this earlier. It's not about what you want necessarily. It's about what you can do to be yourself and to bring others value. And anytime you're questioning the audience and what they think, which we're not responsible for
Right.
what other people think, how they feel, or how they act, unless we're deliberately trying to harm them. But we're only responsible for ourselves. And when we make it about ourselves, that's when we don't show up authentic. That's when we don't show up owning our purpose and doing things like this, sharing our truth. So I love that you shared that. And I definitely see that. You know, I've been looking at your content recently since we connected, and I see that vulnerability, that authenticity, and that's what people want. People don't want this quote unquote finished product of this great success. They want to follow the journey. They want to learn the journey, and so I really appreciate you doing that and sharing.
Yeah, and that's the best way to go. So I had to move because it's way too hot out there. I thought it was gonna be a little cooler today. But yeah, I've figured that out along the way because I think most people they either just really want results really really fast, and that's just not the way that it
That's the
goes.
society today. We got a what is it in a they call it like an Uber society. Like we have like a Amazon Prime society. Like everything is snap of a finger. It's literally you don't have to leave your couch. You can have food. You can have
Yeah,
services. You can have
right,
products. You
right.
can have a trainer. Like, you can have everything, and there's no more sense of delayed gratification, like working for something. You know, like people talk about like getting trophies for participation. Like that is such a weird concept, especially to like how I grew up in like athletics. Like you can't get last place and celebrate that if you want to be one of the best.
Right.
In
Yeah.
every aspect of life, people see that as negative. Like, no, you tried. It's like, yeah, you tried, but could you try harder next time? Could you try more? Could you become better? And that's what it's all about, becoming the best version of yourself. So, um, on that note, who do you look up to? I mean, we connected over a similar
Yeah.
person that I think we both get inspiration from. But you know, is that someone, or like who do you gain inspiration from?
A lot of times, I listen to air times here and there because I have to switch it up. So I have a couple people. I have Trent Shelton. I listen to him pretty good amount of time. Um, Another man, he's not in the, well, he is in the motivation, but he does like a lot of taxes and things like that. But his name is Prince Donnell.
Okay.
So I listen to him. Um, who else is there? There's Mel Robbins. There's Jay Shetty. Infinite Waters. Ralph Smart. He has like a whole like he's big into like spirituality and things like that. But he has some really good stuff as well. Who else do I listen to? Les Brown. I actually just got a book, one of his final books, I believe, that he's going to ever write. But
Oh wow.
he talks about being hungry for your dreams, actually.
Hmm.
Who else is there? I think that's about it. I kind of listen to a lot of different podcasts.
Good variety, yeah.
Yeah, a big variety there's a lot of different people that I listen to. Um, so I know Jay Shetty, for example, he's very, very good as far as me doing for meditation and kind of getting your mind in the right place. But those are pretty much it. I mean, and most of my inspiration really comes from either other people who are doing videos like mine. And I either take their topic and I just switch it around and make it better, or I think about what they didn't take or what they didn't say. Or I look at infographics like on Pinterest or something, and I'll find inspiration that way. I'm in a couple of like Facebook group chats, so I kind of go through there and whatever questions people are asking, I'll either use those questions, or if I post videos and people comment concerns, I usually take that and make that into content. Um, And that's pretty much how I find my inspiration mostly for what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the reason I ask is because I refer to those people as virtual mentors. And that's something that helped me the last 10 years of my life, starting with I was 21. I was, 4 years in my professional BMX career. I got diagnosed with a brain tumor after an MRI from a crash.
Yeah.
And that's where my journey started with the truth I'm living today. And so Lance Armstrong was someone that stood out that had a similar story, but he had brain, lung, and testicular cancer, came back to the level he competed at, whether people's opinions of him cheating, that's all irrelevant. Because
Mhm.
now that I've gone through that experience, I was able to relate to him before I had surgery. Because who are
Mhm.
you going to relate to having your skull cut open besides a select few people?
Mhm.
So I was like, man, like this guy came back from what I saw as 3 times worse that I was experiencing, and he came back at the level he did for years. So that really like inspired me to have the belief that I was going to overcome this challenge. And then from there, I started just changing, like I started auditing every aspect of my life. Like how could I be healthier? How could I be mentally tougher? How could I be physically stronger? All these things. So started to realize I was looking at people that I looked up to, whether it was Eric Thomas, Jim Carrey, Ronda Rousey, Kerwin Ray. These are all people that are, Lance Armstrong. These are all people that are virtual mentors of mine. But I was really looking at the journey. And Joe Rogan's podcast has been helping me for years. Like just listening to the stories and the perspectives and the challenging questions to ask ourselves. That's when I started learning like there's a lot I can take away from learning people's stories. And then as I started sharing through the BMX media of getting back to competition, people are like, oh man, like whether they were a BMX rider, an older person doing this, or an athlete of another sport, thank you for sharing because it drove me with a different perspective to overcome this challenge. And I started to notice like, oh, this isn't just about me. This isn't just about BMX. This is about life. And then I started to dive in more into the mind, and that's when you and I got connected over a mutual
Right.
respect for Eric Thomas. And so I just love sharing that because a lot of people feel broken, they feel alone, they feel
Yeah.
ashamed, and
Mhm.
it's like you're not the only one that's experiencing this. But once, like your mom was saying, like social media is super powerful.
Right.
And it's irresponsible to say that anyone's mental illness or struggle is the cause from, or social media is the cause because it's a choice. But if
Right.
you choose to use that tool in a direction that's going to serve you, you can have conversations like this. You can find people you didn't know speaking a
Right.
similar language or went through something. And that's what I've dedicated my life to is
Mhm.
letting people know, like not once, but 3 times that I get diagnosed with a brain tumor on top of injuries, on top of other things.
Yeah.
And I'm here today living my best life and I
Mhm.
aspire to do more.
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate you sharing those people that you gain inspiration from and then sharing all that you do because people are going to see and hear things that resonate with them. And that's what it's all about. To me, success is getting to a level I want to and helping people get to the level they want to, whatever that looks like to them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the whole importance of it is to help not only yourself but also to help other people. I know, like for me, um, I went through a timing, like I said, where I was like, I'm not going to post anything. I'm not going to, do it. And really, I really started to think about, okay, where do I want to see my life, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or whatever. Because my plan is to be done with college in a year. But, again, like, where do I want to be? And no matter what is going on, I have to be able to make sure that I'm being consistent every day and I'm showing up every day, like I said. But you have to be, again, like the person who believes in yourself and believes in where you're going and what you're doing. And none of my other friends are doing anything close to what I'm doing, let alone they're not even posting every week. So it's like you you just have to remember that along the journey too, some people have to go, and you're gonna have to. I was in a relationship a couple months ago, and that's done with. And not to say, it was great, and it'd be nice to have it again, but at the same time, in this season, I'm not in the same place as you. So maybe down the road, maybe never, I don't know, but I'm responsible for what I have to do. And I think that that's the most important thing right now is that you're always being responsible for your life and you're taking charge of your life. And my mom has always taught me those things is to be responsible for your life because the truth is that you're the one who can make it happen. And some people may say, oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. And I don't understand all of those things, but again, you know I think most people say, I don't have money. You have money, you just don't have the amount that you would like to have. And you just work with what you have. And if you're really serious about what you want to do, then, you take the steps and you get it done. And I will also say too, this month I have a word for every month. So this month was action. Next month will be execution. So this month I invested actually a little amount of money into different programs, but from people that I actually have built relationships with for the last couple of months who are doing a program. And these are people who are already running businesses. I'm not running a business. These are people who are, have a pretty well expansive following. And for me, it's not about a following. It's about me building a neighborhood, and a neighborhood of people who want to know what their purpose is and who want to own their purpose in life. So that is what my end goal is, of course, with the speaking and all of that comes down the road. But my end goal is to have a neighborhood of people who own their purpose. And so the one thing that I would just say is for anyone who wants to get into doing their gift or their purpose or their passion in life, there's going to be times where you are going to have to put money towards the things that you want. And I had to learn that because I was scared for a long time. Like I did not. I was buying clothes like this. Like I was buying clothes, shoes, all different types of stuff. And this year and the last couple of months of the quarantine, I've been, I haven't bought a bunch of books because I'm trying to finish the 3 books I have now. But I bought some books. I read them every couple of days. I'm constantly buying different, not all the time, but things that are of interest to me, of how I can grow my platform, of things that I maybe need to print out and have a checklist off as I'm doing. How many times do I need to do this a week? And so there are certain things that I still am not on perfect task with, but I'm able to put in the work. And I think that's the thing that there's no such thing as I don't have time. If you make time for it, you will, even if it's like 5 minutes, you still make that progress. And you have to just, again, consistency, and getting to it, and having a why, like you said, having a why, having a reason, and having intentions. And I would say, again, like anybody listening, if you want to have intention in your life, you need to sit and figure out, like, what are the 3 things that I'm going to do today? What are the 3 things that I'm going to focus on today? You need to write that when you get up. I sit at the edge of my bed and I write out the 3 things that I'm doing. And when you do that, you end up getting a lot more. And get off of this thing and try to do, something, or turn off notifications on your phone. Or, I actually have my phone on airplane mode in the morning and when I go to sleep, because I don't want anyone calling me. I don't want to see no notification. And that helps me to do as much work as I'm doing. Now, of course, like I said, last couple of days kind of had a little bit of a situation, but I am still able to show up every week because I have discipline, and I know exactly where it is that I want to go. And if you have no direction, you will be lost. And if you're so busy focusing on what everybody else is doing, you're just going to be lost. And I figured that out even going through school. I was like, these organizations are great, and I may still do 1 or 2, but in reality, my vision is so much bigger than just being at school, that I feel like if I don't do something, then that's okay, because I know that this will only be a season in life. So my whole biggest advice is always focus on the things that you are wanting to do years from now. Don't just like go from week to week to week to week, or month to month to month. You take care of what you have to do. You take care of your responsibilities, but you have to remember why you're actually here. And most people don't know that. So that's my whole purpose of trying to help others own their purpose in life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, you touched upon so many points that we could have
Absolutely.
conversations forever. But out of respect for your time, I just want to address a few things, and then
Okay.
I'll let you go and we can stay in touch. But something I thought really profound you mentioned is, having purpose and the drive. That's, people talk about motivation. We've already discussed that. It's like when you have purpose, you have clarity around that purpose, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you have an intention that you're defined by, like a vision you're working towards. that's going to get you up every day. And maybe some days are going to be harder than others. Maybe you're not going to succeed, quote unquote, succeed that day, but it's going to allow you to continue moving forward. And the other things that you mentioned that I want to address is like investing in yourself, like accountability for where you are and accountability for where you're investing your time, your money, your emotions, your energy. And a quote, from Eric Thomas that comes to mind is, when you accept that you're the problem, you immediately accept that you're also the solution. And
Yeah.
so when you can take accountability, you can accept your reality for what you've created, then you can understand you have the power. You can empower yourself to
Yeah.
create your vision. And that's where, one of my virtual mentors, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I've been learning from him for years now. And like one of his quotes that I love is, your personality creates your personal reality. So the way you think, act, and feel is going to create the reality in which you live. And you can literally determine your future based on that. Because if you're living as your past, present self, emotionally, mentally, and physically, you're going to get the same outcome tomorrow and the next day until you
Yeah.
make a change. But
Yeah.
change requires acceptance and accountability. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's amazing, because what you just shared, you had some wake up calls recently. You saw yourself going into overdrive, and then you took a step back, you regained some perspective, and now you're moving forward. And we're having this conversation, and like, you're going to be able to take from this, I'd imagine, and share more thoughts and things. And that's just going to keep driving you forward, because you're clear in your purpose. You're not going to beat yourself up because
Yeah.
one day, 1 week, 1 month you fell down. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting perspective that people often overmiss, because they look at the facade of someone's
Yeah.
reality that is social media,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they
it's
don't
about,
see the journey.
well, yeah. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
you're good.
I think it's also about, not sitting in, well, I'll say this, the last couple of months too, I've paid for a course. Um, this YouTuber, her name is Sparkle Marie, but she's big into like law of attraction and all those other things. So I'm taking her course still. And you can kind of do it whenever you want or whatever. But basically, she's talking about mindset, and she talks about, the high vibration versus low vibration, the frequencies, and all of those other things. And really, what it is, what I've learned is, stop like beating yourself up and get on a phone call, like I said, or write out how you're feeling. Or, I had a lot of like emotions a couple of last week, the end of last week, and I have a group chat in Facebook. I posted up a video. It's actually a Mel Robbins group chat. I posted up on Facebook and put it up on the group chat, and people are telling me and giving me these long paragraphs. But the point is you can't be upset at yourself when you are the one that is either feeling the way that you are, or you're in the situation that you're in. And a lot of people want to get to the next level in life, but then they don't invest. And I would say too, invest in what you want to do. Like, I've had a lot of people, a lot of these Forex people come and talk to me and DM me over and over and over again. I don't have, it's not that I can't do it. I just don't have the time for that. And I've had way too many conversations to where it's like, this probably isn't something that I need to do. So I would just say, also stick to who you are, stick to what it is that you really love to do, and be willing to invest the money. The program that I'm doing, well, the law of attraction thing was like $30 something, but the program that I'm doing with the purpose and all of that, that was like $150. And I get that not everybody has that type of money right now because of everything going on with the economy and the stock market and things that's happening in the world with people's jobs. But the point is there's a lot of good resources out here, even for free. And if you can't, YouTube something, or find some people on the Apple podcast, or I don't know if Android has a podcast app, but find something that you can do to build self-development and to find what it is that you really want to do in your life. Because at the end of the day, this is your life and you are responsible for the things that you want. And even if, you grew up a certain way and things didn't happen the way that you wanted to, that's, unfortunate, and I'm sorry, but you have to, at some point, pick yourself up, and you have to, um, find that courage and find that momentum. And for those who don't know how to do that, or don't know how to pick themselves up, I would simply start with just YouTubing. How do I da 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 da, tips on da 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 da, best ways to da 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 da. And when you do that, you will be very surprised if you are cleaning up around your home, or whatever, you listen to different people, and that's how you grow. And the difference I can definitely say between me and a lot of the peers that I'm either around, or because I still keep some people around because they're still fun and they're smart in their own way. I just don't spend that much time with them. I know that I'm 5 years ahead because I know that my thinking is 5 years ahead. So I know that a year or two from now, I probably will be 6 years ahead. Not saying that I'm going to have everything that I want, but just saying that my mindset will be different and I will have grown and expand. And and again, like I said, it's okay to move past and to move on from different people. Um, and yeah, the first thing that I would just say is if you didn't get anything that I said, finding your purpose and gift really starts just Googling, just researching things that you're interested in, things that you want to do in your life. And
Yeah, there's an abundance of resources for
there's a lot.
free for small amounts of money,
Yeah.
and the resources financially are all around us. And I would argue or challenge people to the belief that they can't quote unquote afford things by
Yeah.
auditing what they choose to invest their money in on a regular basis. Because if you clean that up, you can see how things can add up, and you can afford to invest in yourself, because there's no better investment in your other than yourself.
Right.
And I get challenged with this all the time when I talk about self accountability, cause, being at cause, not blaming yourself, not being at fault, but being at cause of the current reality you're in. Not that things out of your control happen. Like if you're born a certain way, or if something happens to you that you didn't want, it's not about that, but it's about being at cause for how you think, act, and feel today and moving forward, because that's going to determine your reality. And so many people choose to sit in that victim mentality and tell themselves, I can't afford this, I'm not able to do this, I grew up this way or that way. And it's like, yeah, that's all truth, but and facts, but so is that person. But they
Right.
chose to look at it differently. Now they're winning. I literally know people that have no arms and legs that are making a ton of money, that are fulfilled, that are helping people, and that are living their best life, that once were a victim, and
Right.
they
And it's
chose
all about
not to.
taking the responsibility. Yeah. It's all about taking the responsibility and the truth is, those that are going through abuse, those that are going through uh, some type of issue, problem, whatever it may be, you have the ability to not only change that, but if you have a phone and you have internet, even if you go to Starbucks and you sit and you just go there every day religiously, there are thousands of people on the internet that have the same exact problem or the same exact issue that you're going through. And I don't think that, your life problems, you can't really blame them. Like my parents are divorced, right? And my dad is a wonderful person. He takes care of me, and both of them do, and it's wonderful. I don't have an emotional connection with my dad. My brother has a great thing with them, like I have problems because of what happened when I was younger, and he was a baby at that time. And I have a lot more knowledge as far as what was going on in the house. But and how I feel particularly on how a father needs to act in the emotional realm. But at the end of the day, if I sat in that all day, now of course I still have problems, I still have my issues, but I have to learn that, listen, I have to be respectful, one, and I have to keep doing what it is that I'm doing. When I get my own place and I have my own stuff going on, I can go, I can say how I really felt. But when you have things that happen to you as a kid, you can blame people, but you need to also think about where your life is. Do you have money in the bank? Do you have a roof over your head? Can you lay down? Do you have a car? Or do you at least have a bus nearby that you can travel on? Are you able to go to the grocery store and get food for yourself? Are you able to cook for yourself? Do you have somebody who calls you? Do you have someone who checks up on you? Think about these things, because sometimes when we complain, we forget the fact that our life could be so much worse. There's a
Mm-hmm.
kid, for me, well, I'll start with the kid, but there was a kid, I can't speak. There's a kid that's next door, and he has a mental disability. And when I was born, I'm actually a premature child. I was very small, 1 pound, 3 ounces, and very tiny. And the doctors said that I had all these different types of problems. Well, thank God I'm not that person that, they were describing. But when I look at him, the kid who lives next door, who has these disabilities, who does not speak English, he just makes a bunch of noises. He's basically a toddler, but he's like 16, 17. He's in a wheelchair. He's not really, he's a life, but like it's kind of wrong to say, but he's just kind of there. And you can think about, like, oh my gosh, like my life is so horrible. I don't have this, I have that. But then look at what other parents have to deal with, because then those parents have the guilt of the child, like, oh my gosh, this is our son and we could give him away, or we could do something that, is random. But, we know that if we do, we're going to feel guilty and he doesn't have a life, and all these other things. So if you sit around and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm broke. Oh my gosh, I don't have money. Like, what you speak is what you are. And so if you keep saying, I can't afford, like the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, if you haven't read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I suggest that you start reading it, because it's the perspective of how poor people think and how rich people think, and how rich people don't say I can't or I want or I need, or they live life as if it's already there. And that's how they're able to receive the abundance of the things that they want in their life, because they say, hey, listen, this is already mine. So like for me, I call myself the greatest motivational speaker of this generation. It's not, I haven't been awarded that, but I believe that, and it will happen because I have it already. So when you start to speak on things that you have and you are, then that's when those things will happen. But if you continue to sit down and blame yourself for, oh, I don't have this or I can't have that, don't be surprised if you, and even not only that, but you speak it out there and then you don't even act towards it. Now your body literally gets, like, at least for me, my mind will get lazy or get like, I'll be shut down and I just won't want to do it. I'll sit here and turn on Netflix and watch that all day instead of actually doing that. And that's another thing that I would recommend. Get off of Netflix, get off of YouTube, read some articles here and there, but just get off of the things that are distracting you. Like, I don't know what's going on in Netflix. I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch TV. Because everything for me now is, if I watch somebody on YouTube, I'm rewarding whatever they're creating. And that's missing out on opportunities for me. So I would always say, if you want to start something again, you have to really know your why, and you need to get started and just stop complaining and stop looking at everyone else and start doing what it is that you are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, perspective is everything. It's the difference
Mm-hmm.
between someone doing something or someone wanting something. And something also that comes to mind with what you're talking about in regards to your father, perception is reality. And so when we're 0 to 7, we're just taking in information from energy and actions and what we're witnessing, not so much words. And that continues, like our subconscious is conditioned from 0 to 12, majority of it, and then it just continues, snowballing after that. It's something that I challenged myself with when I turned 26. That's when my father had me. And I was like, man, like, I wonder what it would be like if I had a child right now. It'd probably be very difficult. I can't imagine what he was going through, but he did an amazing job raising me. My parents were divorced when I was 2, but they were still, supportive. And so that's something, like, one of the fundamentals in psychology is, like, everyone has their own reality, and it's because of perceptions.
Right.
And you can see something, and what you perceive isn't the same as what, if you and I looked at the same painting, we would
Exactly.
see completely different things.
Right.
And I think that when you understand that and you take a different perspective in life and you try to see the shoes of the person you're looking at, and as human beings, we judge people. That's a human trait. It can be in a negative context, or it can be from an observing context. But you can have more empathy when you understand, like, what they went through was something that you'll never fully understand because it's not your life, it's not your eyes. And that's something that, when we look at our life now and we're comparing ourselves on social media or movies or TV shows or the news, things like that, we as human beings, we're wired to thrive on stress and fear and all these negative emotions, because that's like our subconscious, our ego coming out to protect us from survival. And it
Right.
makes us cling to these things and compare ourselves because it's challenging us, and we get addicted to those chemicals. And when we can shift the perspective to thinking like, oh shit, like, I don't have 10 grand right now in the bank, but like, what could I do to make 10 grand? Or but I have a house, I have a bed, I have clothing. Some
Right.
people don't. And I think that's one of the most profound experiences I've had from literally traveling the world to third world countries and seeing how people live literally on the street, seeing people living in poverty and in filth and then basic amenities like cold running water that is drinkable. When I went to India, I realized that that is not something that's worldwide. I knew about it, but I got to experience it firsthand. And so I think, to sum up this whole conversation, I think something that I see in you and progressing more forward, and what I try to align myself with the people that see these things as perspective is essential.
Yeah.
And if you want to better your life, you have to take accountability for your current reality as you being the cause of that reality, because it starts in the mind. Your perception creates your reality, and those emotions that the brain releases is going to influence how you move forward one day. It could be the difference of you sitting on the couch or you getting up and feeling inspired to doing something about what you don't like or what you want in your life. So, with all that being said, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with me and to share, about your perspectives and your beliefs and your story. And I look forward to us staying connected. And yeah, on that note, where can people find, you've mentioned a YouTube channel and Instagram, like where can people go to look more about, look into you and your life and just kind of what you have to share?
Yeah, well, thank you first of all for the timing and for taking the time out of your schedule. Well, the first thing is my Instagram is Tyson Michael, so it's Tyson and then Michael with one underscore, and then my YouTube is Owning Purpose, so just owning and then space and then purpose, and those are my two social media accounts that I am mainly on. I drop 3 videos a week on my Instagram, so that's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Um, and then on YouTube, I drop videos once or twice a week, but definitely new videos every week because I can't always commit to 2 times a week because it's a lot editing and doing all that stuff. But once I do videos every week on YouTube. So again, that's Owning Purpose on YouTube, and then Tyson Michael underscore for Instagram.
Yeah, and if people haven't created content even at the basic level, they would definitely appreciate people's
Yeah.
other people's content once they do, because it is time consuming. It is a lot of effort to put into the thought, the intention, and then the actual tangible, not tangible, but the digital,
Yeah.
after effect of it to deliver. So yeah, so thanks for sharing, man. And like I said, I look forward to staying connected. If there's anything you need from me, just shoot me a DM, let me know, and I look forward to seeing more of your content and ways that we can collaborate.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening and for tuning in. I appreciate, Josh for letting me give my insight and talk and, all of that. I can talk all day, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, you have a good week, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, later.
All right.